Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. Sunil here. Welcome to the session. Can you hear me? If yes, please type yes in the chat box as a confirmation. Thank you. Thank you all for your confirmations. Thank you very much for your responses. Thank you, Mitra. Let us stop the chat. Let us stop the chat. Welcome to day 3. Welcome to day 3 of Windows Server Administration Training. In this session, we will continue learning from day 2. We'll be installing a role called as Active Directory Domain Services. We'll learn how can we promote a server to the domain controller. Important. To get into practicals, we need a server, which we already have created. We'll need a client machine. That's what we'll be learning now. A very important point, you have to create a Windows 10 virtual machine. We'll be making that machine as a client machine. We'll also learn how can we create a Windows 10 virtual machine. This is a time consuming process. It will take approximately 20 to 25 minutes for the Windows 10 VM to be created. So you have to be very patient. Okay, and watch the recording and repeat the same steps in your practicals. So create a Windows 10 VM. The corresponding ISO file also will share it in the notes. Adding the client machine to the domain controller, which is very, very important. Creating an Active Directory user. Creating a Active Directory user. So these are very, very important points for the today's session. Okay, I hope you're all excited. I'm equally excited. So let's move on. Any questions before moving on? I hope you are enjoying. I hope you have installed VMware in your laptop or desktop. I hope you have installed Windows Server VM also. Okay. Okay. So let's have an interaction with Mitra. Good evening, Mitra. How are you doing?
Very good evening, Sunil. Thank you. I'm good. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you, Mitra.
Yeah, I have a question particularly about, do we discuss licensing about this Windows
You're talking about
server
Windows Server
licensing?
licensing models.
Yes.
Okay. We have perpetual models and subscription models. We'll be discussing that.
Okay. In the beginning of the course or at the end of the course?
Not in the beginning, in the middle of the course, we have a topic related to licenses. At that point
Okay.
of time, we'll be discussing it. Okay.
Okay.
Not
Thank you.
at the end. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So did you started installation, Mitra? Have you created a Windows Server VM? Did you perform the hands-on?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning, Dave. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. Um,
We cannot hear you.
hear me?
Please check your mic settings. Dave?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, your volume is very low.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Please proceed.
Links and the notes. So how do I get the links to download, the ISO?
Your volume is very, very low. Okay, very diff. Okay, let me increase. Okay, 1 minute, please. Yeah, please repeat. Please repeat.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I was asking, how do I get the links? I didn't get the links
You're talking about which link?
for the installation, the VMware, the ISO. I don't have the links for any of that.
Okay. Are you able to get the notes?
No.
Okay, okay. Okay, so have you enrolled by making the payment?
No, I've not.
Okay, so please complete the payment formalities. Okay, so these are the notes which I'll be using in our day-to-day sessions. Dave, as you can see here, this is the notes. The notes contains the corresponding ISO files, links. Okay, you choosing which you can download it. Anyways, as of now, I'm sharing the ISO file link for the Windows server now in the chat box.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's move on. Okay. As you know, let's refer to the image. The Windows Server administration role is all about managing the server and managing the clients. Ultimately, you have to manage the network infrastructure with respect to Windows operating system, the client machines, as well as the server machines. So to practice, you should have two environments. We should have a Windows Server environment. We should also have a we should have a client environment. When you have two environments, then we can execute and we can enjoy and we can experience how exactly the server client behavior looks like. In our previous session, that is in our yesterday session, we already have created a server VM. We already have created a server VM. Look at this, the Windows Server 2016. Let me power on this. So I already have created a Windows Server VM. This is what we have created. Just a Windows Server environment will not help you. We should also have a client environment. We should also have a client environment. Okay. So in this session, we'll also learn how can we create a client environment. That's what we have learned. Okay. So before that, let's understand about, we have learned about the concept of roles. Quick recap. Recap of previous notes. Roles in the Windows Server will help you how you want the server to be used. Do you want the server to be used as a file server? Do you want the server to be used as web server? How do you want the Windows server? You want the server to be used as DHCP server? How do you want the server machine to be used? Is dependent on the roles what you're planning to install. We already have learned how can we install the roles. We have installed a network policy access services role. We have installed a file and storage services. We have installed IIS. So these are all the roles which we have already installed in our previous session. Let's go back to the Windows Server environment. Let's check where can we see the roles. Yes, the password what we have used is training at 123. Training at, I think we have also used that notes here. You can refer. The password what we have used is training at 123. Good. So it's always important to document. So in case if you're stuck anywhere, if you follow your own documentation, it will be good recap. Okay. So you have to also document whatever you're practicing, because a session can be related to its previous sessions. It's always good practice to document it. So let me enter the right password. Server manager window pops up automatically. Windows Server Manager Server Manager will be popped up automatically, where you can see at the bottom the roles which are already available. I have installed. Right now a server is having 3 roles: file and storage services role, IIS role, as well as NPAS role. So these are the roles which we have created. So we already have learned how to install the roles. Okay. Now the most important, most frequently used role, most important role in as for a Windows Server administrator is the most important role for a Windows Server administrator is Active Directory Domain Services. The most important role is Active Directory Domain Services. The Active Directory service, in short, the Active Directory AD service is a set of services which helps to manage users, groups, and machines. So using this particular role, you can manage machines. This is all you can manage it. You have to manage as a Windows administrator, you have to manage all the client machines. How do you manage the machines? How do you look at the machines? How do you control the machines? How do you stop using this particular machine? How do you provide access to this particular machines? How do you perform updates to this particular client machines? So you should have full control on the client machines, and this is possible by using this particular service called as Active Directory Domain Services. The goal of this particular role is to give a safe, centralized management over the network resources. Network resources are nothing but laptops, desktops, printers, everything you can control it using this particular service. So main functionalities: managing permissions. You can manage permissions with respect to client machines, authentication of users, storing information, etc. So these are all the main functionalities of the Active Directory Domain Services. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and install Active Directory Domain Services. In short, it is called as Active Directory. Let's go ahead and install Active Directory. We already know how to install. We already have installed role in our previous session. So let's quickly do that. Pretty simple. Go to Manage option and the Server Manager window. Go to Manage, Add Roles, Role Based. Select the role whichever you want to install. Click on Next and click on Install. As simple as that. So we will be installing Active Directory Domain Services role in our Windows Server machine. Manage, add roles and features. Next, select role based because you want to install it on a single server. Where do you want to install it? I want to install in this Windows Server machine. What is the name of this particular machine? We have provided a name. The name of the machine is Training PC. Do you remember? Do you remember that we have provided a name to this particular machine? View advanced system settings. Go to computer name. We have provided a name. What is the name? Training PC. The name of the server machine is Training PC. So you are clearly able to understand. You're clearly able to look at it. So we are planning to install a role on the Training PC machine. That's fine. Click on Next. What directory, what role you want to install? You want to install Active Directory Domain Services. Select the right option. Active Directory Domain Services is what I want to install. Click on Add Features. Yes, I have selected the checkbox. Click on Next. Take the default features. Click on Next. Active Directory Domain Services, popularly called as ADDS, stores the information about users, computers, and other devices over the network. Got it? Click on Next. So it's a very important role. And then click on Install. Okay. Click on Install. The destination server where it is getting installed, this particular role is getting installed in the Training PC. That's our machine name. Just takes a minute, less than a minute, for the machine to get installed, for the role to get installed. Please be patient enough in this session because there are many more time consuming activities to be done here. Configuration required, that's fine. Installation succeeded. Okay, I'm done with the installation of Active Directory Domain Services. Just click on Close. Now the number of roles previously at the start of the session was 3. Now the number of roles has been changed to 4. We have added a new role. Where can you see the role here? Immediately you can see ADDS is the name of the new role which we have installed. So we have installed this particular Active Directory Domain Services role in our server machine. Next. If you want to control the client machines, what is our objective? As a Windows Server administration, our objective is to control the client machines. If you want to control these client machines, you need to promote this particular server as a domain controller. Not just installing role. You have to promote this particular machine as a domain controller. That is our next step. Please look at the PPT. Installing Active Directory domain services, which you are just now, we need to promote the server machine to as a domain controller. Okay, that's the next step. You should make that machine as a domain controller. So from once it gets promoted, the moment I say domain controller, that means I'm referring to the Windows Server machine. So let me promote the machine to the domain controller. Okay, look at this. We need to promote the server to a domain controller. Go to notifications. Where is the notification? Notification is nothing but the flag option here on the top. Promote the server to the domain controller. You'll get the option. Add a new forest. Let me explain later what is my new forest. You need to mention the domain name. Domain name is generally the organization name. Okay, let's say there's an organization called TCL Group. So I want to maintain the complete network devices of a TCL organization. So I mentioned the domain name is tcl.com. Next, click on next. Directory services restore password. You have to provide one password for that. Okay, click on next. Most of the options are next. Click on next. Click on mention the TCL. Take the default path. So let's follow the steps and let's make that particular server machine. Let's promote that particular server machine to the domain controller. Go to notifications. This is the notifications option. Go to notifications. Can you see here? Promote the server to the domain controller. Promote this server to a domain controller. Select the right option. Next. Add a new forest. What is forest? I'll define later. Okay. So go ahead and add a new forest. You have to mention the domain name. Add a new forest. Mention the root domain name. The root domain name which I want to mention is tcl.com. It's generally the organization name. Click on next. Type the directory services restore mode password. You should be using this password in case if you want to restore the domain controller. Because of some reason, if the domain controller is not properly working, it got crashed, you need one password to restore the domain controller. So that's what you have to use it. I'll be providing a password as mentioned in the document. Okay, the password which I want to provide for restoring is welcome123 with W capital. Take a note of it. We are done. Click on next. Click on next. Just click on next. DNS options, we got it. What is DNS? We have not started this DNS role, so let's ignore this. We'll discuss about the importance of DNS later. Click on next. It will be prompted for NetBIOS. It will be prompted for NetBIOS domain name. Please hold on, some processing is happening. Automatically, the tcl.com is the domain what we have mentioned. The domain name is TCL. Okay, so it gets automatically populated. That's what I have mentioned here. Click on next, take the default path. Remember, it gets automatically populated. Click on next. Take the default path. Okay, so there are some files which are generated in this particular locations. The corresponding files will be saved. That's okay. Take the default paths. Click on next. Review the details, whatever we have just entered. Click on next. Okay, please verify the details. Check prerequisites and install. Please review the details. Click on next. Prerequisites needs to be validated. So this role is checking the prerequisites. If your machine satisfies the prerequisites, that's okay. These are warnings. You don't need to worry about this. All prerequisite checks are passed successfully. The prerequisite checks are passed. Click on install to begin installations. So we are promoting this particular server to a domain controller. Install. Installation in progress. Install. After installation, it will be prompted to restart the machine. So please restart the machine. Before restarting, one important observation. It is in the process progress, but before that, go to advanced system settings. Advanced system settings. Go to computer name. You will get this get updated. Okay. Previously, the computer name was training PC. Now the full name will be changed to trainingpc.tcl.com. That automatically gets modified just for your observation. Let's wait for the installation to get completed. The target server is training PC machine. As I mentioned, you need to be patient enough to have a complete exposure on the installation process. Once it is done, okay, the domain name we already have observed. The domain name of the machine changes to tcl.com. Okay, and we will be changing the network options. We make sure that an IP address will be generated automatically. Okay, okay, we make sure that every machine is identified with an IP address. Am I right? Every machine should be identified with an IP address. Okay, so we will make sure that this particular server machine is uniquely identified with one IP address automatically. We'll make some changes to that option. First, let's wait for the installation to get completed. Still in process. Yes, Mitra.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, you said one, I mean, can we ask questions in the middle or can we keep it for the end of the session?
You can interrupt me. You can raise your hand. Definitely for every 10 minutes, I'll be checking the participants' hand raise and you'll get an opportunity to speak. Okay, Mitra, not a problem. You don't need to stop till the end of the session because your doubt may be relevant to that point of time, which I'm providing some option, isn't it, Mitra? So immediately raise your hand. Okay, no problem.
Thank you. I have two questions.
Yes,
First
please.
thing, this documentation part, you said something that a documentation is very important for
You're
further
talking about this
course.
documentation, which I'm following the notepad one.
No, in practice, as per the standard industry practices, is there any established format to maintain documentation? I mean, in real-time scenario, I'm asking.
Always prefer Microsoft documentation. Learningmicrosoft.com. My learningmicrosoft.com is a URL. Okay.
Okay.
So you can go for the Microsoft documentation, which is the preferred documentation.
Okay. And second question is, at any given point of time when the server goes live, can we change this domain controller name? I mean, like physical system name?
Yes, there is an option where we can make some changes also. It is not fixed. Sometimes it is required to change the domain name. So we'll be seeing that soon.
Okay. Domain controller as well as the forest name also.
Yes.
Oh,
okay.
thanks.
So it's very early to discuss now. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. As per my understanding, it generally takes 6 minutes, 6 to 7 minutes for this particular installation to be completed. I think we already have crossed 6 minutes. Very important notice, as you have observed, the server is successfully configured as domain controller. Now your server is qualified as a domain controller and it performs restart operation automatically. Good observation. Okay, perfect. So approximately prepare for 10 minutes for this installation to get completed. This particular role generally takes more minutes. Let's wait for the restart to get completed. Whenever a new role is installed, Windows performs a lot of background activities. And whenever a role expects restart to happen, one-time activities will be performed by the server machine. So that's the reason it takes some time for the machine to be restarted, not a normal restart. Unlock the computer. Server manager window pops up automatically. As you can observe, you can see the new role which we have installed. Still in the process. Give sufficient time. Number of roles 5. The new role which we have installed is Active Directory Domain Services. Very good, perfect. Okay, so this is, we have promoted this particular server machine as a domain controller. So when I say domain controller, I'm referring to this particular server machine. Now, important. Every machine is uniquely identified with an IP address in a network, isn't it? How do you uniquely identify every machine? Using an IP address. So let's assign one IP address to this particular Windows machine, to this particular machine. Before that, go to this PC, observe the domain name what we have just defined. You will get that information of the domain name under this PC. So let's go to the Windows machine. Under this PC, go to properties. Under advanced system settings, can you see here? Domain name. Okay, so whenever I am referring to domain name, it is nothing but the tcl.com. Computer name, we have mentioned it as training PC, but the full computer name will be defined as computername.domain.com. This is when I'm referring to the full computer name, it is a combination of computer name followed with the domain name. Okay, this is just for unique identification. Now, I want to assign an IP address to this particular machine. I want to assign an IP address to this particular machine. How can you do that? Open Network and Sharing Center, change adapter settings, and then I don't want to assign IP address manually. I want the IP address to be assigned automatically. So let's do that. Network and Sharing Center. Open the Network and Sharing Center, change adapter settings. This is your network adapter. Okay, go to properties. Go to TCP IPv4. Every machine should have an IP address. Okay, okay, every machine should have an IP address. Okay, so it should obtain the DNS server automatically. So okay, that's fine. Actually, the obtain IP address is DNS automatically. That's fine. So let's provide this IP address later of the Windows server. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so what I'll do now, obtain DNS server automatically. Let's provide this IP address later. Not now. I'll provide the IP address once the client machine is ready. Okay. So as of now, this machine is not having any IP address. Please observe that. Okay. What will be the next action? What could be the next action? The next action is we need to have a client machine. We need to have a client machine to experience the server client communication configuration. How can you control the client machines? We need to have a client machine. So that's our next step. The most important step. We'll be creating a client machine as a virtual machine. As you know, this is a VMware. So this is one virtual machine which is already created. This is one virtual machine which is already created. Now I'm going ahead. This is one machine which is already created. Okay. So now what I'm doing here, now I'm creating additional virtual machine. Okay, second virtual machine. So here we have an option of creating a new virtual machine. Before going ahead to create a new virtual machine, if you want to create a new virtual machine, in our case, I'm creating a Windows 10 machine. I'm creating a Windows 10 machine. You should have an ISO file ready, the Windows 10 ISO file. So using the ISO file, we'll be proceeding with the process of creating a virtual machine. Okay, I have provided a URL. I have provided a URL in the notes. Using this particular URL, this is a public URL. Anybody can download the ISO file. Okay, so using this particular URL, if you just copy this URL and mention this particular URL in the browser, so this URL, the moment you enter it, you will get a download option where you can download the ISO file. To save time, I already have downloaded the ISO file using this particular URL. I'll show you the ISO file which I have downloaded in my downloads option. In this PC under downloads, can you see this is the ISO file which I already have downloaded. For your information, the ISO file, the ISO file is 5.6 GB. Have you observed? So 5.78 GB, close to 6 GB. To save time, I already have downloaded the ISO file. So when you're practicing, please make sure that you download the ISO file in your laptop or desktop. Okay. As the ISO file is ready in my downloads folder, now I'll be proceeding with steps to create a Windows machine. 1 minute. Okay. I have not documented it, participants. So download the ISO file. After downloading the ISO file, step 1, download the ISO file. Step 2, create Windows 10 VM. Okay. Okay. So now I am showing you the steps which are required. You should be patient enough one more time. Okay. I'll be just showing you, please follow the steps which I'm showing you to create a new Windows 10 machine. File, new virtual machine. Go for advanced. Next, click on next. I will install operating system later. My dear participants, so the complete session is recorded for the benefit of you. So please follow the recordings happily. You will not get any doubt. You have a reference document, the notepad file. So please follow the practicals. Click on next. Version. We are creating Windows 10 64-bit. Next. Make sure by default the location is C drive, but we don't want the VM to be created in C drive because generally C drive will have less storage space. So click on browse. I want the VM to be created in the E drive. In the E drive, it's always recommended to create a new folder. Provide a good naming convention. I'm writing it as Windows 10 as a folder name. Select that particular Windows 10 folder, click on OK. Observe that the location is now. So this particular VM now will be consuming the Windows 10 folder in the E drive. That's good. Click on next. Click on next, take the default option. Number of processors which you want to allocate to this particular Windows machine. I want to allocate 1 processor. I want to allocate 2 cores for this particular Windows 10. Next. How much RAM you want to allocate to the Windows 10 machine? So I will be allocating 4 GB RAM. I hope you remember. I have allocated 4 GB RAM to the server machine. I have allocated 4 GB RAM to the client machine. Okay, total I have 16 GB RAM. So I am if you my physical actual machine is having 16 GB RAM. So 4 GB I'm allocating to my Windows 10 machine. If you're having 8 GB, please allocate 2 GB. Okay. So I'm allocating 4 GB RAM to my Windows 10 machine. Next. Use bridge networking. Please make sure that you use bridge networking so that your Windows 10 machine will use the network adapter of the physical machine. Click on next. Click on, take the default option. Next. Click on next, the default one. Create a new virtual disk. What is a disk? Take the default option 60 GB of the disk space for the Windows 10. Make sure that the virtual disk file should be a single disk. Okay, a hard disk should be created as a form of single disk, single file. Next. Do you remember we have, okay, take the default option, the VMDK file, and make sure that the VMDK file is pointing to the Windows 10 folder which we have created just before. Yes, the VMDK file will be created in the E drive Windows 10 folder. Next, review the details. Finish. Now observe here, a new tab gets opened in the VMware. The first tab is the Windows Server, which we already have configured. The second tab is the Windows 10, which we have created a virtual machine. Okay. Now go to edit virtual machine and you have to link the ISO file. Go to the CD or DVD option. Use the ISO image. Do you remember I have downloaded the ISO image of approximately 5.7 GB. Link the ISO file, which is available in my downloads folder. This is the Windows 10 ISO file. Open. You can observe the ISO file has been linked. Click on OK. So using this ISO file, the installation start, power on the virtual machine. Now using the ISO file, click on that particular, click on the VM and just press any key to enter. Press any key. Make sure that you press any key so that the booting will start from the disk. You should be patient enough again. So this session will be more than 1 hour. Generally, our scheduled time is 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. IST. But the Windows 10 machine, as per my understanding, it will take approximately 20 to 25 minutes for the Windows 10 to be created. Make sure that you select the right country. I'm based out of India. So I'm selecting India, English India. Next. Install now. Installation in progress. We don't have product key, so I don't have product key. So click on this. I want to create Windows 10 Professional Edition, Pro 64-bit. Next. Accept the license terms. Go to custom option where you have a lot of options. Disk space 60 GB already are allocated. That's okay. Click on next. This will take some time. I'll be on mute for the installation to get completed. Thank you for your patience. Windows 10 needs to be restarted. Let's wait for the restart to happen. Let's start selecting the right region. Keyboard layout. Skip. I want to use this session for personal use. Setup for personal use. Next. Go for an offline account. Let's say I don't have a Microsoft account. So I'm selecting an offline account. Limited experience. Name, let's have it as WinUser1. Let's document it. Let's write that Windows 10 username. Let's have everything in small case. Next, password. Let's skip the password. We'll do it later. Accept. Accept. Skip. Accept. I have provided a memory of 4 GB. So it has taken close to 20 minutes. If you provide memory of 2 GB, it will take more longer time. Probably it will take 30 minutes. But it's a one-time activity because we need to experience the client server environment, isn't it? So all these activities are one-time activities. We are done. So my dear participants, we have completed the Windows 10 environment. So we have the Windows Server environment. We have the client Windows 10, the client environment. Both the environments are ready for us. Okay. Very important observation. Let's change the machine name. Every computer, whether it's a server machine or a client machine. Okay. So we'll have a computer name. How to get the computer name? Go to this PC. Properties. Advanced system settings, whether it is server machine or the client machine, you need to go to advanced system settings. Under that, can you see the first tab that is called as a computer name? By default, change. Okay, by default, it has its own computer name, desktop -ps, so some computer name. Okay, I don't want this. I want to have a meaningful computer name. The computer name which I want to assign is TCL-client-1. This is the computer name which I want to assign it. So it's always good to provide a name to each and every machine, whether it's a server machine or a client machine. So let's change the computer name. Change. I change the name to TCL-client. These are all client machines, isn't it? So that is the reason TCL-client-1. is what the computer name which I want to change it. Just click on OK. It will ask you to restart. Yes, you have to restart it to make the computer name apply. Click on close. Yes, restart now. Let's restart this Windows 10. Now it will just take a minute to get restarted. So where are we standing now in our today's agenda? So we have installed Active Directory Domain Services role in the server machine. We have promoted the server machine as a domain controller. To experience the client server architecture, we have created a Windows 10 VM. I have provided the respective ISO file also. The next thing, how does server will control the client machines? Isn't it? Look at the diagram. Always look at this diagram. Your server should control all the client machines. Okay. So our server machine we have created in the previous session. Just now we have completed creating the client machine. Now how does server will control the client machine? We need to add the client to the server. Please add client to the server machine. That's what we are doing now. Please observe here. That's the next step. Add the client machine to the domain controller. We have promoted our server to the domain controller, isn't it? So we'll add the server, we'll add the client machine to the domain controller. That's our next step. Let's verify whether the computer name has been changed or not. Go to this PC. Properties. Advanced system settings. Computer name. The name of the computer is TCL-client-DOM, client-1. Okay. One more important observation, the work group by default, every machine. If you right now you are using your laptop or desktop, look at your properties of your computer. By default, the work group is work group in uppercase. This is the default work group of every Windows machine. Now, this is just for observation. Next, what we are planning to do, please observe here. Now we already have changed the computer name. Okay. Now we need to add the client machine to the domain controller. Okay. When you add the client machine to domain controller, what you can achieve as a server administrator, the client will be under the control of domain controller. You can easily manage and monitor the usage of that particular machines, the client machines. You can have a centralized manager of the entire infrastructure. So to do that, very important point, we should assign an IP address to the server machine. You should assign an IP address to the client machine. In a network, every machine is uniquely identified with an IP address. I hope you have observed the server is also not having any IP address. The client machine which you have just now created, we have not verified it. Let's assign IP address to the server machine. Let's assign IP address to the client machine. Okay, I'm now pointing to Windows Server. Client machine is ready. Before adding the client machine, I'm talking about the IP address details. I want to change the IP address of Windows Server. Both the client server machine IP address and the client machine IP address should be of the same series. Then only the machines will come to a particular network. So what I'll do, I'll now provide the assign IP address to the Windows Server machine. How do you assign IP address to the Windows Server? Go to network settings, go to network connections, properties, your network adapter, go to details. You'll have all these details. Okay, all these details. Let's assign those details manually. So I want to assign 10.0.0.1 to the server machine. The subnet mask will be default populated. Default gateway is nothing but the first IP address. The preferred DNS. If you don't know DNS, don't worry about this. We'll cover the DNS in the coming sessions. Please provide this DNS as 10.0.0.1. Let me complete the IP address assigning IP address to the server machine manually. So I'm now pointing to the server machine. Training at 1 to 3. Remember the passwords when you're practicing. You also have your own, you should also have your own documentation. Okay. You can go to network options, open network and sharing center, change adapter settings, your internet adapter, go to properties, go to TCP IPv4, go to properties. Right now, this Windows machine is not having any IP address. I am assigning the IP address to this particular Windows machine manually. Let's follow the documentation which I'm sharing it to you. 10.0.0.1 is my IP address which I want to assign to the server machine. Subnet mask will be default populated. Gateway 10 subnet mask, let's have it as 1. Gateway, what is gateway? Don't worry, you'll understand it soon. 10.0.0.1 and the DNS 10.0.0.1. Click on OK. It should be 0. Click on OK. So participants, I have assigned these details. Click on close. Click on close. The IP address has been assigned. If you want to verify the IP address, double click on this particular network adapter, go to details. The IP address what I have assigned to this particular machine is 10.0.0.1 to the server machine. The subnet mask is this one. Okay, the DNS server is this one. Yes, the details are populated. Your client machine should also have the same series. As the server machine is having 10 series, the client machine should also have the same series. I'll assign 10.0.0.2 to the client machine. So we are done with assigning the IP address to the server machine. Okay, now click on close. That's good. Observation. Okay, and before before changing the IP address to the client machine, very important observation in your Windows Server machine. Go to Server Manager window. Go to Active Directory Domain Services. Go to Tools, Active Directory Domain Services. One minute. Go to Active Directory Users and Computers. Go to Active Directory Users and Computers. This is your domain which you have created, tcl.com. Under your domain, can you see computers? There are no items. We have not added any computers to this domain. That means we have not added any client machines to this particular domain. Right now, it's an empty domain. So this particular controller can control all the client machines only when you add the client machines to this domain controller. So what we are doing now? You can see here, as I have mentioned here in the notes, there are no items now. So in those Windows 10, I want to add the Windows 10 machine. Your Windows 10 machine should also have an IP address. Now let's assign the IP address to the Windows 10 machine. Windows 10 machine. We already have provided a computer name. Okay, so if you want to verify the computer name, you don't need to do that. We already have done computer name changing. So how to change the computer name? Go to the right click option, network settings, open network sharing settings, go to change adapter options, go to network adapter properties, TCP IP4 observation. Your client machine, that is Windows 10 machine, is not having IP address. Let's assign IP address to this particular Windows machine. Remember, over a network, every machine is uniquely identified. Over a network, every machine is uniquely identified with an IP address. So I'm assigning IP address to the Windows 10 machine. Same series, observation. 10.0.0.2. Subnet mask should be 0. Very important. So subnet mask will be default populated. You don't need to worry about this. Default gateway 10.0.0.1. The DNS 10.0.0.1. Remember, this DNS should be the Windows Server IP address. Okay, So Windows Server IP address we have provided 10.1. So that's what I provided. Click on OK. Click on close. Now your Windows 10 will acquire IP address. Yes, it has acquired an IP address. You can see now when you double click on the network adapter, go to details, your Windows 10 is having an IP address. Okay. So if Windows client machine is having an IP address, Windows Server machine is having an IP address, Windows client machine is also having a IP address. Okay. Now, one more important observation. Go to this PC of the client machine, go to properties, go to advanced system settings, computer name. Do you remember we have changed the computer name to tcl-.com, but the work group is not yet modified. This is a default work group. This is just for your observation. Now what you have to do, you have to change the work group. You have to change the work group. You have to add this particular Windows 10 machine to the domain. Do you remember what is the domain we have created? tcl.com. So let's change this work group. Go to client machine, change the domain, mention the domain as tcl.com. This is your domain which you have created. I hope you remember. Click on OK. Click on OK. Now you need to provide the Windows Server. Okay, so generally the Windows administrator responsibility to add the client machines to the domain controller. So this is the Windows Server username password. The administrator username is administrator. The password is training at 123. So this is a server user credentials, Windows Server administrator credentials. Specify the domain do not exist. Could not be contacted. Okay. Once let's restart the machine. 1 minute, please. We have client name. The password. T capital training at 123. That's good. Error, specify the domain. The specified domain either does not exist or could not be contacted. Let's ping whether the machines are whether the client machine is able to ping to server machine. Let's verify it. So if you want to check whether the communication is happening between the Windows 10 machine and the Windows Server machine, you can ping the server machine. The server machine IP address is 10.0.0.1. So you're getting a reply. That means the client machine is able to ping to the server machine. Go to network adapter settings. You have to make sure that this checkbox is selected, replicate the physical network. I think we have missed this. So it's very careful. You have to be very careful. Okay. So again, you're getting a reply as we have modified the network settings. Okay, I repeat again, make sure that the replicate physical network status is available both in the server machine as well as both in the Windows server machine. You have to replicate the physical network state. In the client machine also, you have to replicate the physical address state. Okay. Now, as we have made some changes in network settings, that's good. Let's try to add the machine to the domain controller now. Let's try one more time. Change the client machine to the domain tcl.com. Training at 123 T capital. Let's restart the client machine as well as the server machine. Okay. As we have made some changes in network settings, I have already have documented, but somehow I missed it. So as per the documentation, I have documented okay, VM creation I have not yet documented. That's good. Okay. So we are restarting the client machine once. As the machine is in the process of restarting, we are unable to ping. Hold on. As we are restarting for the first time, it is performing some updates. So you have to be patient. So participants, it's already late. We are exceeding our scheduled time. So what I'll do tomorrow, I will create the Windows VM ready. And then in tomorrow, not tomorrow, one more important information. The training will be only 5 days a week. So tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, tomorrow and after tomorrow, there are no sessions. The continuation of this session will be on Monday evening. Monday evening is the last demo session. So you can also experience the Monday's demo session before making the payment. So Monday, I'll also show you how to add the client machine to the domain controller. So where in which you can see here under the domain controller. Okay, under the domain controller, you can also see the machines which all you have added under the tools, under users and computers. As of now, there is no computer added because we are not able to add one machine. So tomorrow I'll create one client machine ready, and I'll show you how to add the client machine to the server machine. So it is taking a long time than expected, so it needs to be stopped. So let's stop this, and we'll continue this, and we'll also learn how can we create a user domain controller user in our Monday session. Until then, have a good time. Thank you very much, and see you on Monday using the same Zoom link what you have joined today. In case if you want to make the payment, please go to our website. I hope you already know this. It is logiclabstech.com. Under upcoming batches, you can see the Windows Server Administration course, and here you have the payment link. Okay, so click on the payment link. It will ask you to sign in using Google. It will show you the QR code. It accepts internet banking, debit card, and credit card, and you can complete the payment formalities. See you on Monday for the third demo session. The continuation of this session will be on Monday session, where we'll continue to learn more about Windows Server Administration. Until then, have a good time. Thank you. Have a nice weekend. Signing off, Sunil here.